Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about an automation that is quite prevalent in most businesses. What's the core of business, right? You're providing services or products to generate revenue. Every single business needs to send invoices or some type of payment method in order to generate that revenue. However, for small businesses and freelancers, this step can cause a lot of headaches. You're providing the products or you're providing the services. It's a huge part of your business. But what happens when your clients don't pay when they're supposed to, or even just managing that when they are paying and just making sure everything's getting to the right place can be a little difficult. Who knows how much time you spend per week or even per year dealing with invoices and making sure your clients pay on time. Well, that's kind of why we decided to build out just this quick automation to show you that it's actually possible to automate that step, right? Automate really the core reminder email that you're going to have to send out to anyone who's a little late on their payments or a little late on filling out the invoice. And it's quite important, right? You can definitely hit that reminder button. Some platforms actually do have a button where you can hit it once and it's going to immediately send that reminder email out and just say, hey, by the way, you haven't paid. Just make sure that you complete the payment. But who knows? Maybe you want to make it a little bit more personalized and you don't have much access to it within your platform. Or maybe you want to send an extra reminder email after a certain amount of time. Or maybe you don't even have the ability to send the reminder email out within your platform with one or two clicks. Maybe you just need to do something externally to make sure that that happens. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about. So there's a lot of different platforms that offer invoices, right? One of the most common ones is QuickBooks Online, but you also have Square, Stripe, Bonsai, HoneyBooks. The list goes on and on and on. FreshBooks. So the first thing that you need to do once you open your Zapier up is to make sure that the application that you are using is within the apps on Zapier or whatever no-code automation tool you're using. Today we're going to be using Zapier. So for instance, say I'm looking for Stripe. Got to type it in. There it is. Boom. Next thing is we're going to create the trigger event, right? And the important thing about this event is it needs to be associated with the invoice. Now, with Stripe, you have this invoice payment failed, but we really want to find the event that is a new invoice because we want this to trigger on basically every invoice. And it's always good, not necessarily on this automation, but to see if you can find an instant trigger, right? Because that's going to allow for you to immediately start that automation as soon as you send out that new invoice. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set up a delay step. And the delay step right here is we are going to pause this action for a certain time. And sometimes when you have unfortunately I don't have a Stripe account, so I can't really show you exactly what it's going to say. But once you test this, right, at the very bottom it's going to show you maybe the payment due date, the invoice due date. If there's a due date, you want to delay until that particular thing. Or the easiest way to do that is to use the scheduler. But unfortunately, it's not something we can do as an action. So we have to delay it. So a lot of times, businesses have a structured way of when they want to make their deadline. Sometimes it's the day of. Sometimes it's a week in advance. A week after the thought. So you just want to queue up your delay for that much time, right? And sometimes it'll even give you okay, this was processed on this particular date. You can delay it for a week, right? Or you can delay it for a day, or you can delay it for a few hours. And you would do that just by doing this. 1 hour. And that's how you would do that. 1 week, 4 weeks, whatever it is. So there's your delay, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to delay it to a time that's past the deadline of your invoice. The reason that we do that is then we're going to add a filter step. And this filter step is going to be based on two things. Number one, that this invoice was not paid. So sometimes there's a payment was true or false, or invoice completed was true or false. If it's a Boolean, then you want to make sure that it is, if it's false, we want to continue. And if it matches any of these constraints, it's going to leave this Zap, right? So, I'm sorry, if it doesn't match. So, if you say that this is false, if they did make the payment, good. They leave the Zap, right? But if they didn't, they continue. And then you have an option here, right? You can literally just say, all right, the payment was not completed, so they need to continue to the reminder email. Or what you could do is make it so that if the deadline has passed, right, and they haven't paid, and you could also do that as an and step too, but just to keep it simple, we'll worry about the false. So again, you would, deadline is before today's date. And this will give you the date that it will delay until, so you can pop that date right in there. So right there is our filter, right? So if they did pay, or if the deadline has already and the deadline has already passed, so if they did not pay and the deadline is already passed, right here, then they would proceed to the next step, because it needs to fit both of those constraints. They have not paid, and the deadline has already passed, which means that they are, we need to remind them that the invoice exists, because it's still due. So what we want to do is we have a few options here. Number one, you can go ahead and immediately send them an email. And you can do this in a lot of different ways. Say, for instance, you have an email marketing platform like MailChimp. Boom, it's there. But say you just want to send it from your Gmail. Boom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a draft. Or you could even literally just send the email right away. And that way, you're sending that reminder email. And you can stop right there. That is literally all you need for this flow to send this reminder email. However, say for instance, you send this reminder email and they still do not pay the invoice. Well, chances are we probably want to send another one. So within this event, say for instance you choose send an email, it's going to show my account, but that's all right. Right here, you're going to enter the body. And you can literally write whatever you want in here. And you can even use information from the invoice. Hey, I sent you an invoice on this date. I just want to make sure that you have paid the total of this much. Or you could literally just say, hey, Carl, I don't know. Just wanted to let you know that the invoice for this project was not paid. Once you get a sec, could you please finish the invoice for me? Cool. And you just want to fill out these fields so that when this does happen, it sends that email out. And the most important thing is definitely putting within the email that you sent the invoice to, because you don't want to actually put the email in and like type it in. You want to put it in from this new invoice so that the data point shows up, which would allow for you to then use this Zap for every single one of your clients. So again, that's why it's important in the body to put information from that invoice as well. Hi, first name field. I just wanted to let you know I sent you an invoice on due date field. It's really that easy, but again, you want to make sure that you're pulling the data from here so that it works for every single one of your customers. But say, for instance, this one doesn't work. What we want to do is, once again, delay. You can even put a filter right here and say, all right, has it been paid? But chances are they're not going to pay it immediately. So you want to put another delay on it. And then you're going to delay for 1 week or 1 day or whatever it may be. And you could also use, so for instance, on this one, if you wanted to, you could also say delay until, and then put the deadline right in here. That's one thing I forgot to mention. But if you delay for a week, then you would go back with that filter again. And you could even just literally copy this and paste it. And that way you could even add to the filter, if this was sent, then proceed with this. So if it was sent and the payment has still not been paid, then you would add, once again, another Gmail. So again, you don't need all of this. However, if you do decide to use all of this, this is going to give you 2 different reminder emails with different body text that are personalized to the person that you sent the invoice to. And say, for instance, you're working with 20 clients, right? Typically, taking the time out of your day to check if they have not paid their invoice, which, again, most platforms will literally tell you, but also going into your own email and sending them an email is going to take you a good 10 minutes, maybe more. So if you're doing this with 10, 20 leads, or even 5 leads, that's taking a good hour out of your day. So if you queue this up, this is going to work for you really until you turn it off, to send those automated invoice reminder emails so that you get the most out of every single booking that comes through your business.